Everyone says second chances are a gift. But here's what nobody actually tells you. Most people waste them in exactly the same way they wasted the first one. And today, we're going to fix that. Let's be real for a second. When a second chance shows up, whether it's a relationship you almost lost, a job you nearly blew, a health wake-up call, or just a new year, a new week, a Monday morning, it feels different. It feels charged. It feels urgent. You tell yourself, this time is going to be different. You feel it in your chest. You mean it. And here's the cruel part. You probably do mean it, sincerely, completely. But meaning it isn't enough. And that's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud because it sounds harsh. It sounds like they're taking away hope. But I'm not taking away hope. I'm giving you something more useful than hope. I'm giving you clarity. So why does the second chance feel different when it often isn't? Because the feeling of a fresh start is real. The emotion is real. The relief, the motivation, the energy, all real. But the conditions haven't changed. You have the same habits, the same default responses, the same environment, often, the same thought patterns running in the background like software you forgot to update. The emotional charge of a second chance fades, usually within days, sometimes hours. And when it does, your old operating system boots back up, and suddenly you're doing the same things, making the same small choices, sliding back into the same grooves. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken, but because behavior doesn't change just because the calendar does, or because someone forgave you, or because you got lucky. Think about it this way. Imagine you're driving a car and you crash it into a wall. Someone pulls you out, gives you a new car, tells you it's yours, clean slate. But if nobody taught you that you were holding the wheel wrong, you'll crash the new car too. The second chance was real. The generosity was real. But without changing the driver, the outcome is identical. This is the pattern that ruins second chances, and it's almost never talked about because it's easier to celebrate the opportunity than to honestly examine whether we've actually changed anything about ourselves. So before we go any further, ask yourself this. When your last second chance arrived, what specifically did you do differently? Not feel differently. Do differently. If the answer is vague, that's okay. That's what we're here to fix. Here's something that almost nobody talks about. Second chances come with an invisible price tag. And if you don't acknowledge it, it will quietly destroy the opportunity before you even realize what happened. When someone gives you a second chance, in a relationship, in a workplace, in a friendship, they are not starting from zero. They remember. They're watching. Not in a paranoid way, not necessarily with bad intentions, but they are paying closer attention than they were before. Because they got hurt, or disappointed, or let down. And the thing is, they should be paying attention. That's rational. That's self-protection. So what this means for you is that your margin for error has shrunk. Not disappeared, but shrunk. The goodwill you're operating on is borrowed, not earned. And borrowed goodwill has to be paid back through consistent action over time, not through one big gesture, not through an apology tour, through the unglamorous, invisible, repetitive work of simply showing up differently, day after day, until the evidence outweighs the memory. But there's another cost that's even less discussed. The cost to you. When you're in a second chance situation, there's often a low hum of anxiety that follows you around. You're aware that you're being watched, even if no one says it. You might feel pressure to prove yourself, which can tip over into people-pleasing or overperforming in ways that aren't sustainable. You start saying yes to everything. You start shrinking your needs. You abandon boundaries because you feel like you don't have the right to have them right now. And that's a trap. Because people-pleasing in a second chance doesn't rebuild trust. It creates a distorted version of you that eventually collapses. Real trust is built by being consistently yourself and consistently reliable, not by being whoever you think they need you to be in order to keep the door open. And then there's the self-doubt that creeps in. The internal voice that says, "You already messed this up once. Who are you to think you can do it right now?" That voice sounds like honesty. It sounds like accountability, but it's not. It's fear wearing the costume of wisdom. Real accountability says, "I see what went wrong. Here's what I'm changing. Let's move forward." Fear says, "I'll never be good enough. I'll ruin this again. I don't deserve this." Learning to tell those two voices apart is one of the most important skills you can develop in a second chance moment, because one of them fuels you and the other one stalls you right when you need momentum the most. All right? So we've established that second chances don't fix themselves and that they come with real costs and pressures. So what does actually make them work? What separates the people who genuinely turn it around from the people who cycle through the same failure loop? The first thing, and I want you to hear this clearly, is that you have to do a real autopsy on what went wrong. Not a surface level, "I should have communicated better," or "I was stressed." Go deeper. Why did you not communicate? What were you afraid of? What did you believe about yourself or the other person that made avoidance feel safer than honesty? What need was going unmet that caused the behavior that caused the problem? Most people skip this step because it's uncomfortable. It requires sitting with yourself in a way that feels exposed, but without it, you are genuinely flying blind in your second chance. You're trying to solve a problem you haven't fully diagnosed, and we all know what happens when you treat the symptom and not the cause. The second thing is, change something concrete, something visible, something behavioral. Not a mindset shift, not a vibe change. An actual behavioral commitment that someone else could observe. If the issue was that you kept canceling plans, put non-negotiable calendar blocks in place and honor them. If the issue was you never listened, implement a physical rule. Repeat back what someone says before you respond. If the issue was procrastination at work, change the structure of your morning before you open anything else. Concrete, specific, observable. Because abstract intentions are invisible to the people you need to rebuild trust with. They can't see your heart changing. They can see your behavior changing. The third thing is patience with an aggressive timeline. Here's the paradox. Rebuilding trust takes longer than breaking it, but you also can't afford to move slowly on the actions. You have to start showing up differently immediately. On day one of the second chance. Not after you've figured everything out. Not once you feel ready. Now. But you have to simultaneously accept that the results of that changed behavior, the restored trust, the healed relationship, the improved reputation, those take time. Months sometimes. And if you expect them to come quickly, you will interpret the delay as proof that it's not working, and you'll quit right before the corner turns. And finally, and this is the one that sounds almost too simple, you have to actually want the thing you're fighting for, not the idea of it, not the ego safety of not having lost it, the actual thing. Because if you're in a second chance just to avoid the pain of the failure, you will put in minimum effort once the acute pain fades, and it will fade. The discomfort of a near miss is a terrible long-term motivator. The love of what you're trying to build, that's what sustains you through the boring middle of a second chance, when nobody's watching, when the drama has faded, when it's just you and your choices again. We've spent a lot of time talking about second chances in relation to other people, relationships, jobs, external situations, but I want to close with the one that actually underpins all of them: the second chance you give yourself. Because here's the thing: you can have every strategy in place. You can know exactly what went wrong. You can change your behavior, show up consistently, do everything right on the outside. But if somewhere in your internal world you have decided that you don't deserve to succeed, that you're fundamentally the kind of person who fails, who disappoints, who isn't quite enough, then you will self-sabotage. Not consciously, not dramatically, just subtly, quietly, through the thousand small choices that add up to a direction. Forgiving yourself is not the same as excusing yourself. That's a distinction worth burning into your memory. Excusing yourself means telling yourself that what happened wasn't really your fault, or that it wasn't really that bad, or that other people have done worse. That's avoidance. Forgiving yourself means looking clearly at what happened, accepting your role in it without collapsing into shame, and then, and this is the crucial part, deciding that what you did does not have to define what you do next. It's not a free pass. It's a release from carrying the weight of the past into every decision you make about your future. And here's something that took me a long time to understand. The way you speak to yourself during a second chance literally shapes the quality of that second chance. If your internal monologue is, "I always ruin things," you will approach every new opportunity with the posture of someone who is about to ruin things. You'll hesitate where you need to be bold. You'll overanalyze where you need to trust yourself. You'll give up right at the moment of resistance, because some part of you is simply confirming what you already believe. Change the story. Not into toxic positivity, not into "everything is great and I'm perfect," into something honest and forward-facing. "I've made mistakes. I understand them better now. I'm building something different." That's it. That's the whole thing. Simple, grounded, true, and said often enough, acted on consistently enough, it becomes your new default. The old story loses its grip, and you stop needing the external second chance to feel like redemption, because you've already given it to yourself. So here's my question for you. What's the second chance that you've been waiting to give yourself? Think about it. Seriously. Because that answer might be the most important thing you take from this entire video. If this hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of unfiltered clarity. No fluff, no hype, just the stuff that actually matters. I'll see you in the next one. Don't waste your second chance.